Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a TBR swap with one of my booktube besties, Sophia over at Sophia's Thoughts. Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Joana and I love to talk about books on this channel. I predominantly read fantasy books, but I do try to branch out every once in a while. Today we're here for a very exciting project. One of my booktube besties, Sophia over at Sophia's Thoughts, and I decided that we wanted to do a TBR swap. So we sent each other our unread books, and then the other one picked a couple of books from that TBR shelf and said, hey, I would like you to read these, and then we, out of that selection, were allowed to pick another selection. So I sent her my whole shelves, she picked 5 books for me to read, and out of those 5 I picked 3 that I'm going to be reading, and then I'm going to be vlogging, and then I'm going to be seeing how much our tastes align and or don't align. Because we feel very differently about some things, but we feel very similar about other things. So I'm excited to see how I feel about the books that she picked for me. So I'm going to talk to you right now about what the books are, why they're on my TBR, and then I will be reading them and I will tell you what I thought about them. The very first book I have here is a long time coming, and that is The Queen of Atolia by Megan Welland Turner. These books I own because my best friend from college, she loved these books, and she told me, always read The Queen of Atolia. And I found out this is actually book 2 in a series, and I told her, hey, did you know that this is book 2? And she said, no, I just picked up The Queen of Atolia, never read the first book, and went from there, and I love them. And so I picked them up. I actually read The Thief, which is the first book in the Queen's Thief series, which is this series. I read that book twice already because I always planned on continuing on. So when Sophia picked Queen of Atolia, I asked her, should I reread The Thief if I do plan on picking this one up? And she said, no, you can just go into it, it's fine enough. And if you have questions, just ask me. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna reread The Thief a third time. I am going to be reading The Queen of Atolia. So in this series, at least in the first book, we follow a thief who is known to be able to steal anything. And one time though, he is in prison for stealing, and he gets taken out of prison because he needs to steal this super rare jewel, if I remember correctly, for the queen, and he's the only one who has the abilities to steal this jewel. And so he gets taken out of the prison cells by the queen and her guards and all that, and they go on a quest to find this jewel and he needs to steal them. I have no idea what happens in the second book. I don't really like knowing much about my books before going in. I will read you the synopsis so then we can discover together what it's about. When his small mountainous country goes to war with the powerful nation of Atolia, Eugenides the thief has his job cut out for him. Steal a man, steal a queen, steal peace. But his success or failure will depend on whether he can steal something the Queen of Atolia sacrificed long ago. The Queen's Thief novels are rich with political machinations and intrigue, battles lost and won, dangerous journeys, divine intervention, power, passion, revenge, and deception. So there you go, that's what this one is about. I'm really excited. This one is pretty short and the font is pretty big, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem, and I will check in when I do get to this one. The next book on this TBR swap is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This is a book that I am so excited to read. I bought this book, actually I pre-ordered this book because I read Alex E. Harrow's first book, The 10,000 Doors of January, last year, and I really liked that book. I was a bit let down by the ending, I will say. The ending wasn't perfect for me, but I had such a good time throughout that whole book that I just knew I needed to read everything she writes, and this is her second book, and so I picked it up. 10,000 Doors of January was just beautiful writing, which I usually don't tend to gravitate toward, but I just loved it so much there, and it was so whimsical, and I knew I just needed to see what else Alex E. Harrow would come out with, and thus when Once and Future Witch came out, I pre-ordered it and haven't read it yet. And Sophia actually picked this one out of my shelves, and then I thought this was the perfect occasion to finally get to this beautiful book and to read it. In 1893, there is no such thing as witches. There used to be, in the wild, dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna, joined the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces that will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. So this one sounds so cool. It is witches and the suffragette movement, and I just think that that is very fascinating, and I can't wait to get to this book. It is a chonker, I will say. It is a big, big chonker, but I'm still very excited to get to it. And the last book in this TBR swap is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I have had this on a few TBRs, and I still don't know what it's about, so I'm gonna read the synopsis with you. When Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer, she isn't expecting much. The Wayfarer, a patched up ship that's seen better days, offers her everything she could possibly want. A small, quiet spot to call home for a while, adventure in far-off corners of the galaxy, and distance from her troubled past. But Rosemary gets more than she bargained for with the Wayfarer. The crew is a mishmash of species and personalities, from Sissix, the friendly reptilian pilot, to Kizzy and Jenks, the constantly sparring engineers who keep the ship running. Life on board is chaotic, but more or less peaceful, exactly what Rosemary wants. Until the crew are offered the job of a lifetime, the chance to build a hyperspace tunnel to a distant planet, they'll earn enough money to live comfortable for years, if they survive the long trip through war-torn space without endangering any of the fragile alliances that keep the galaxy peaceful. But Rosemary isn't the only person on board with secrets to hide, and the crew will soon discover that space may be vast, but spaceships are very small indeed. So I didn't even know anything about that. I just heard that this is a very character-driven story, that there's not a lot of action, and that should be okay because I am a character-driven reader myself, so I shouldn't have a problem with this. I'm very excited to get to it, and I'm excited to get some sci-fi into this because I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I've been meaning to get this one. I own the whole trilogy, so I better get to it. So those are the 3 books I'm going to be reading for this TBR swap. I don't know yet which one I'm going to start with. I will just update you when I do. So until next time, I will see you in like a second. Hey guys, so I finished the first book for this vlog, and I'm going to be talking about it, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. Now, in The Once and Future Witches, we follow the 3 Eastwood sisters, and if you're at all familiar with the whole magic and how it works things, or if you've ever read anything about where there's magic in it, you usually hear the mother, the maiden, and the crone, and that's what we follow here. We have the 3 sisters who each represent one of these entities in the witches community. So we have James Juniper, who is our maiden, we have Agnes Amaranth, who is the mother, and we have Beatrix Belladonna, who is our crone. And these 3 sisters have actually been estranged for like about 7 years at the start of this novel because of their father and different family situations from when they were younger, and they were split up. And at the beginning of this novel, in 1890 something, in New Salem, they each feel the pull towards each other, and they meet at a suffragette movement in the middle of the street, and then this magical tower appears, and the story kind of goes from there. The main point of this book, or the main plot of this book, I'm going to say, is that we have, so it is set in our world, it is in New Salem, and we have the suffragette movement going on. So we have all these women fighting for their rights, and the right to vote, and the right of sharing their opinions. But then we realize that this is not for all women. There is a black woman who asks, what about us? Why can we not be part of this association of suffragettes? Why can we not join your fight? And then the leader of this movement says, listen, you guys just got your freedom. Shouldn't you just be happy with that? You shouldn't be thinking about things like rights. You just got your freedom, so just be happy with what you have, okay? Okay, bye. And yeah, that was terrible. And so if you were a black woman, a queer woman, or a witch, or one of the combinations, or any mix of those things, you didn't belong. This was only for fair, white, rich ladies who wanted to be able to express their opinions and vote. And that is kind of the point of this book, where all our characters started realizing that they're outcasts. They're either queer or black or witches or any of those things that don't belong in typical society at the time. And the 3 Eastwood sisters decide, okay, you know what? We're gonna bring witching back. There once used to be witches, there were witches, and now we are bringing it all back. And we have a lot of mythology in here. We have the 3 last witches of the West that were the mythology. Also a mother, a maiden, and a crone that kind of were the big witches back then, and they were fighting against St. George, who then actually killed them, and he was the hero, heralded, the one that removed witches and all that evilness that comes from witches from the world. And we actually have these parallels in 1893 or whatever it is in New Salem again, and I love that. I love when a book has mythology in it, and then when characters have to go through ancient texts, ancient scrolls, ancient myths, ancient rhymes and stuff like that to actually find what will help them in today's world and with it today's problems. And that was so fascinating to me. And we also got a glimpse at the Underground Railroad. Everything was just so, I don't know, I love the atmosphere of this book so much. I just felt that I was there, I felt engrossed in it, I loved the characters, I thought that they were just so fascinating and each so different. I wasn't 100% completely invested in the characters, but I still really enjoyed them. I love the discussions that we had about being inclusive, about women are women, whether they are trans women, queer women, gay women, whatever, black women, it doesn't matter. Women are women, and whoever identifies as it should have their rights. We should all actually have the rights. And that discussion was just so interesting. And we also saw that it was always said that women were the witches, but there are also male identifying people who could do magic, and they was always said, yeah, but they're separate magics, and men cannot do women's magics, and women definitely cannot do men's magic. And then we realized that maybe that's not true, and so we see all these people coming together and to fight something that I won't say because it's a bit spoilery, and I just really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 stars. I don't know why. There's like a little something that always keeps me from giving Alex E. Harrow's books 5 stars. The first one I read by her, 10,000 Days of January, I actually was loving the whole way through, and then it was the ending that kind of made it that I didn't want to give it 5 stars because I felt like the ending was a bit rushed and I wasn't super happy. This one, I was just really happy the whole way through. I love the writing, I love the characters, like I said, I like the atmosphere, I loved the whole pouring through ancient texts and mythologies I love it, guys. We had like fairy tales that were retold in the book, so we had like Rapunzel's story but different, and it was just, and oh, I definitely recommend the audiobook because that one was just so amazing. There was music in it, and it's just like, oh, so good. So I really liked this whole book, and it sat at a 4 stars the whole time I was reading it. The discussions, everything about it, I just really liked. And yeah, I'm really happy I read this one. It had been on my shelves since it came out, and this was the perfect opportunity to read it. Thank you so much for recommending this one to me because I had so much fun reading it, and I think that this is a book that I would reread. I don't know if I would reread 10,000 Days of January because I really liked it, but I highlighted passages that I liked. But this one is definitely one that I wouldn't mind rereading every October or sporadically, like maybe every other October or something like that, because it was just very beautiful and the writing in here is stunning. If the concept of this book sounds good to you and you like beautiful writing, I definitely recommend this one. So now I'm going to go on to the second book for this vlog, which I think is going to be The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and then when I have read it, I will come and update you. Hello guys, so next update for this vlog, I finished The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. It's been a few weeks since I finished this now, and this one absolutely surprised me. I gave it 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it so far. Two books in this video have been 4 stars. This book was so good. I did not expect to love this as much as I did, to be honest. I listened to the audiobook, which I highly recommend the audiobook for this. The narrator does such a good job with the voices, and I think the best point of this book is the characters, and then that's probably why Sophia recommended this to me, because she knows I'm a character-driven reader. She knows that characters mean more to me than plot or anything else, and that is what you get here. A lot of the book is just these characters being together and talking and having moments together and being off-planet with other characters, and that may sound boring to some. I know, for example, that Alan over at the Library of Alexandria DNF'd this because he was bored with it, I think. And I totally see that. I totally see someone saying this book is so boring, nothing happens, I don't want to read this. But it worked for me. I think that if you're a character-driven reader who likes sci-fi books, this is for you. I think so. I cannot imagine if you like sci-fi and you like characters that you won't like this. It is funny, it is emotional, it is everything I look for when I read a book. I feel attached to these characters enough that I want to continue. There's a lot of quotable lines in here, but because I mostly listened to it on audio, I didn't tab it, which I do need to find some of the lines that I love so much. But one of the things that really stuck with me is the characters are talking about how they look like. And then someone says, why is it that we always try to compare something to something we know? So for example, someone who comes from Earth is like, oh yeah, this person or this species, they look a little bit like alligators. And like, why do you compare with something from your home planet? It has nothing to do. Alligators belong to Earth. There's no alligators anywhere else in the galaxy. Why would you compare it to an alligator? They're just the species. And I love that because even as I was reading this, I was like, but what can I imagine? What can I picture when I want to look at someone? And when you read, it makes sense because you want to picture something. But when you see someone, they think, why would you need that? And it was so interesting how they talked about humans, how the species of humans are like the worst because they kill each other off almost. And it was just like such good thoughts that were in here, such good themes that were in here, and the friendships and the characters were incredible. So I really, really love this one. I don't even know why I didn't give, but there's something that keeps me back from giving it 5 stars. I don't 100% know what it is, but I will say that this is great fun. I'm definitely continuing on with the series. I wish I had the audiobooks for these. I need to wait until I have more credits on Audible, but I will definitely continue on with the series. The cover is absolutely stunning. I love it so much. Everything about it is just so good. So this, I think if I had to rank the books for now, this may beat out The Bonsai Feature Witches, which is weird because The Bonsai Feature Witches had everything for me to be the favorite in this video, and I still really enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars like I said, but I think this one took me more by surprise, and that is probably why this one is beating it out. And it has been a few weeks since I read this, and it has been a few weeks since I read The Bonsai Feature Witches, so it's not even recency bias. I think that of the two, this one has been sticking with me more and made me want to continue definitely with this series at some point. And so now we're going to go on to the last book for this vlog, which is The Queen of Atolia, and I will talk to you when I have read it. Hey guys, so it is a couple of days, weeks later, I don't remember when I last updated this, but I have finished my last book, which was The Queen of Atolia. So I wanted to talk about this book with you to wrap up this video project. So The Queen of Atolia, I really didn't need to pick up The Thief again, which I thought I did, and then Sophia told me, no, you don't. You can just go into this one, and it's true. You don't need a refresher because there's some stuff that if you remember, which is basically the ending, then you're fine to go into this. I'm going to read you the synopsis for The Queen of Atolia, and then we'll talk about it. So the synopsis says, when his small mountainous country goes to war with the powerful nation of Atolia, Eugenides the thief has his job cut out for him. Steal a man, steal a queen, steal peace. But his success or failure will depend on whether he can steal something the Queen of Atolia sacrificed long ago. The Queen's thief novels are rich with political machinations and intrigue, battles lost and won, dangerous journeys, divine intervention, power, passion, revenge, and deception. And I agree. Those things are exactly what they are rich with. This book, I don't know what's rated, because I read this in basically 2 sittings. I read the first 100 pages or so in one day, and the next day I finished the book out. So in one weekend this was read basically in 2 sittings. I listened to the audiobook, which was very, very, very good. And I'll say this, I gave it 3.5 stars, and I think I'm gonna stick by that rating because if you don't know this about me, I am mainly a character-driven reader. And so this book, as much as it has a lot of things that I like, I did not feel attached to the characters. I don't know if it'll happen in the sequels. I don't know if it's just a me thing that I didn't get attached, but other people are attached to the characters. I don't know. But I didn't have that attachment that I have with other characters from other series, which make them my favorite series. This, what I love most about this is the political intrigue. This is a war between 2 countries and that involve other countries, and we have the 2 queens who are going against each other, and Eugenides, the thief, is in the middle of this because he was captured, and then he was there's trading things happening to get him back to his country. It's really politically heavy, which I absolutely love. And that was the part that was why I couldn't put it down, because I wanted to know how this war was going to play out, what kind of tricks and stuff people had up their sleeves, how were we going to get out of this war, how would we trade things, what would we trade, what would be the concessions that would be made by these warring pieces of the chessboard. But I didn't care that much for the characters, and I don't think that, for example, the world building is super fleshed out, and I don't remember if this is from the first book and I just don't remember it. I don't know if it's just me who didn't 100% get it, and there's like gods in this that do play a role, but they're not super fleshed out, at least not yet. And so there were some aspects of this that I absolutely loved, especially the political intrigue. Like I said, if you like political books and you're not necessarily a character-driven reader and you don't mind stuff that is YA, then this is absolutely for you. I will do a recommendations on political heavy books, and this is one of them. I think that is one of the strong points of this book, is all those, it's like a big game of chess that is just so fascinating to watch. But yeah, I think the fact that I didn't connect 100% to the characters, that I wasn't invested in whether they would, be maimed or killed, was what ultimately made it that I gave it a 3.5 stars, which means that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good time, but not favorites material. So to wrap up this TBR swap with Sophia, I read The Queen of Atolia, which I gave 3.5 stars. I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which I think I gave 4 stars. And I read The Bonsai Feature Witches by Alex E. Harrow, which I also gave 4 stars. So all in all, I will say that I enjoyed all the books that I read. Some a little bit more, some a little bit less. So what I'm gonna say is that this is the one that I had the highest hopes for. This is the one that I already knew the author well from her 10,000 Roses of January book, which is a book that I clearly remember. I gave it also 4 stars. So I assumed that this would be anywhere between a 4 and a 5 stars. And it got a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. There is still something that is keeping me from giving it a full 5 stars, which is totally fine. 4 stars is a very, very good rating. And this is just something that I think is very beautiful. The writing is very beautiful. It is very atmospheric. It has all those fairy tale elements that I just really enjoy. It is a very, very cozy, yet politically heavy, and with some stuff that will make you so angry. Not at the book, but at the society back then and how women, especially women of color and queer women, were treated, or just queer people and people of color in general, to be fair. So it has those things that, like, real world stuff that will make you angry, but it also has all the whimsy of fairy tale retellings and of, like, not even retellings, but just like of those myth and folklore and fairy tales being included in this novel. So I think this is like a very cozy atmospheric read for the fall, which I think people who care about those kinds of topics that are in this, with the suffragette movement and witches and stuff like that, that you would enjoy it because the writing is really nice. But of course, if these aren't things that sound interesting to you, you will not like this. I've heard a lot of people who didn't like this, and I'm happy to say that I did, and it did meet my expectations. I had a very good time reading it. I read it pretty quickly, to be honest, for it being the big book that it is. And yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. My biggest surprise, and the book that I thought was going to be my least favorite, was of course The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this as much as I did. I gave it 4 stars. Again, it was a very, very, very interesting, very fun sci-fi book about a crew of people. I already talked about this in this video, but still, about a crew of people who are in this ship together, and it's not even about the mission, it's not about the plot. This is definitely, if you need a good strong plot to carry you forward, don't read this. This isn't going to be for you. If you read sci-fi for the space battles, this isn't going to be for you. There are some space battles in this, but it's not the main focus. If you're a character-driven reader who cares about sci-fi, who cares about those topics, about humanity, about how humans are treating the planet, about how humans treat each other, and about understanding other species and stuff like that, then this is for you, which is stuff that I like to read about. And therefore I gave it 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a ton of fun, and I was really invested in these characters more than I ever thought I would. And finally, like we just talked about the Queen of Atolia, I really thought this was going to be anywhere between a 3 and a 4 stars. I didn't remember loving The Thief. I think back then I gave a lot of things 5 stars, so which probably still sitting at a 5 stars in my Goodreads, which is not accurate. So it met my expectations. It was a fun book. It was politically intrigue heavy, which I enjoy, but it wasn't anything that blew me away. I will continue with the series, which I don't think I said earlier, but I will definitely continue with the series because they're fun palette cleanser books and I enjoy them a lot. So there you go, guys. This is my wrap for this TBR swap with Sophia. Again, I will leave her channel, of course, and her video in the description of this video, and see what she read and see what she thought of them. She picked some really good books, of course. She picked some of my favorites, so I hope she enjoys them as much as I did. And yeah, that's going to be it from me today. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. And if you want to leave an emoji, leave a crystal ball emoji or a spaceship emoji. Yeah, that is going to be it for me today, and until next time, happy reading. Bye, guys.